There's something truly captivating about a woman who has grown into herself. A woman who doesn't need to raise her voice to be heard because her presence speaks louder than words. A woman who moves through the world with calm, with clarity, with quiet confidence. And it's not magic, it's not luck, it's habits. Small habits that shape a character, and a character that becomes irresistible. Tonight, I want to talk about those habits, the subtle behaviors of a mature woman who doesn't chase attention, yet effortlessly attracts respect. A woman who doesn't demand love, yet naturally inspires loyalty. Because when a woman understands her value, when she knows who she is and what she stands for, something shifts. People feel it. Rooms change. Conversations change. Her life changes. So if you're listening right now, slow down. Take a deep breath. Let your mind settle. And allow yourself to imagine the version of you who is not loud, not desperate, not hurried, but grounded, graceful, and quietly powerful. These are the 7 habits that make a mature woman truly irresistible. A mature woman is irresistible because she is calm within herself. And that calm is not something she was born with. It is something she built slowly, deliberately, and sometimes painfully. It comes from understanding one simple truth. Not everything requires her reaction. Not every comment deserves her energy. Not every situation needs her participation. She has learned over time that peace is more valuable than proving a point, and maturity is knowing when to walk away, not out of fear, but out of strength. She has lived enough life to realize that anxiety drains her, arguments age her, and chaos steals her ability to think clearly. So she chooses something else. She chooses stillness. The kind of stillness that you can feel when she enters a room. The kind of stillness that makes others instinctively lower their own noise. Her energy is quiet, but it's commanding. Not because she tries to control the world, but because she controls herself. She doesn't interrupt. She doesn't rush. She doesn't compete for attention. She listens deeply because she knows that listening is how you see people for who they truly are. And she speaks only when she has something meaningful to say. Her presence isn't heavy, yet it has weight. Her words aren't many, yet they have impact. People remember her not because she was loud, but because she was intentional. There's a softness in her that comes from wisdom, not weakness. She understands that everyone is carrying something, insecurities, fears, disappointments. She doesn't add to their burden. She doesn't react to their chaos. Instead, she stands firm in her emotional independence. She allows others to be who they are without letting their storms disturb her clarity. And because she doesn't get pulled into emotional whirlwinds, she becomes a safe place. People feel more grounded when she is near. They feel more composed. They feel more understood. But this calm didn't grow in comfort. It grew in the moments when she had to hold herself together even when everything around her was falling apart. It grew in the moments when she cried alone but still showed up the next day. It grew in the moments when she learned the difference between reacting and responding. She realized that reacting is emotional, but responding is powerful. Reacting is instinct, but responding is intention. And intention is what makes her irresistible. A mature woman knows how to protect her emotional energy. She knows that she doesn't have to explain herself to everyone. She doesn't have to be understood by those who don't care to understand. Her calm comes from knowing that her worth isn't up for negotiation. It isn't fragile. It isn't dependent on validation. She doesn't chase people. She doesn't try to convince anyone of her value. She simply embodies it. And people feel drawn toward her because of that quiet certainty. She has learned to breathe before speaking, pause before judging, and observe before acting. That small pause, that 1 second of awareness, is what separates her from the woman she used to be. That pause is where her power lies. Because maturity isn't about age, it's about emotional discipline. It's about choosing clarity over impulse. It's about letting go of the need to win small battles so she can win the bigger war. The war for her peace, her dignity, her sense of self. In a world full of noise, someone who is calm becomes magnetic. In a world full of chaos, someone who is composed becomes rare. And rarity is what makes something irresistible. People admire beauty, but they are drawn to stability. They admire intelligence, but they stay for emotional safety. They admire confidence, but they feel connected to depth. A mature woman gives all 3, not by trying, but by being. Her calm is not passive. It is powerful. It is the kind of power that doesn't dominate the room but elevates it. The kind of power that doesn't shout but resonates. She becomes a reminder that strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it breathes. Sometimes it simply exists quietly in the way she carries herself, in the way she chooses her battles, in the way she refuses to let the world steal her inner peace. And when you see a woman like that, a woman who is calm, grounded, self-aware, you can't help but be drawn to her. Not because she tries to impress you, but because she makes you feel something inside yourself. She reminds you of the person you want to be. She reminds you of the calm you crave. She reminds you of the strength that comes from knowing who you are and refusing to be shaken by everything around you. That is the quiet, steady power of a truly mature woman, and it is irresistibly magnetic. Akasis, a mature woman, becomes irresistible because she understands the power of self-respect. Not the loud kind that demands attention, but the silent kind that sets a standard. A standard for how she speaks to herself, how she allows others to treat her, and what she chooses to accept in her life. Self-respect is not a rule she follows. It is a way she lives. It is the foundation of her confidence, the source of her boundaries, and the reason people admire her even before she says a word. She has learned through experience that the world treats her the way she teaches it to. If she tolerates disrespect, she invites more of it. If she respects herself, she attracts people who naturally reflect that respect back to her. She knows that her value is not something she proves, it is something she protects. And she protects it by being clear about what she will and will not allow. A mature woman does not beg for love. She does not chase approval. She does not negotiate her dignity for temporary affection. She understands that love given at the cost of self, respect never lasts, and approval won by shrinking herself was never real in the first place. So she holds herself to a higher standard, not to impress others, but to honor the relationship she has with herself. There is something profoundly attractive about a woman who carries her own worth with quiet certainty. She doesn't have to convince anyone that she is valuable. She doesn't have to be louder, prettier, or more dramatic. Her value comes from the way she honors her own needs. The way she says no without guilt. The way she says yes without fear. The way she refuses to abandon herself even when others walk away. People respond to her differently because she responds to herself differently. You can feel her strength not because she is unbreakable, but because she refuses to break for people who don't deserve that power over her. She doesn't tolerate disrespect disguised as love. She doesn't wait for someone to realize her value. She realizes it herself every single day. Self-respect also changes the way she shows up in relationships. She doesn't argue endlessly to prove a point. She doesn't try to fix someone who refuses to grow. She doesn't cling to situations that drain her spirit. Instead, she makes decisions from a place of clarity. If this costs me my peace, it's already too expensive. This simple clarity makes her irresistible because emotional maturity is rare and people are naturally drawn to rare things. A mature woman understands that boundaries are not walls, they are doors. Doors that allow the right people in and keep the wrong ones out. Doors that protect her heart while still allowing her to love deeply. Doors that guide her life with dignity instead of desperation. She is not afraid to close a door that no longer leads to respect, growth, or honesty. And that confidence, that ability to choose herself, is magnetic. The truth is, self-respect makes a woman glow in a way makeup never could. It changes her posture, her tone, her presence. It changes the way she walks into a room and the way she leaves one. A woman who respects herself doesn't need to ask, "Do you think I'm enough?" She knows she is. She has learned it through failure, heartbreak, rebuilding, and rising again. Her confidence is not inflated, it is earned. And because she respects herself, she loves differently. She loves with depth, but not dependency. She loves generously, but not blindly. She loves from overflow, not emptiness. She doesn't seek a partner to complete her, she seeks someone who complements her. Someone who respects her as much as she respects herself. Her self-respect also shows in the way she manages her time and energy. She doesn't waste hours trying to please people who don't care about her happiness. She doesn't invest emotional labor into relationships that have no reciprocity. She doesn't stay in environments where she has to shrink to fit. Instead, she gravitates toward places where she can grow, express, and expand. The beautiful thing is this: when a woman respects herself, the world automatically adjusts around her. People become more careful with their words, more intentional with their actions. more mindful of how they approach her. Not because she demands special treatment, but because she sets the tone. Herself, respect creates an atmosphere, an energy that others instinctively respond to. This is what makes her irresistible. Not perfection, not beauty, not charm, but the quiet understanding that she is worthy of good things, real love, honest people, and peaceful environments. She doesn't wait for someone else to see her value. She chooses to see it herself. And in doing so, she becomes a woman who inspires others to treat themselves with the same level of respect. A mature woman knows that the world will try to convince her to doubt herself, to question her worth, to settle for less. But she also knows that self-respect is a daily choice, a choice to walk away from what harms her and walk toward what builds her, a choice to stand firm in her truth, a choice to value her own heart even when others don't. And that choice, repeated again and again, is what makes her truly, undeniably, effortlessly irresistible. Asin, one of the most irresistible qualities of a mature woman is emotional intelligence. Not the kind we read about in books, but the kind that is lived, practiced, and earned through experience. Emotional intelligence is the ability to understand yourself and others, to respond instead of react, to navigate feelings without being controlled by them. And a mature woman embodies this effortlessly, not because she has never struggled, but because she has learned from every struggle she has faced. She understands her emotions without letting them dictate her behavior. She feels deeply, but she doesn't lose herself in the process. She can sit with discomfort without rushing toward chaos. She can feel anger without becoming destructive. She can experience sadness without drowning in it. She can acknowledge fear without allowing it to make her small. This emotional steadiness doesn't make her cold. It makes her strong. Because strength is not the absence of emotion. It is the ability to hold emotion with clarity. A mature woman has developed patience with herself, and that patience shows in the way she deals with others. She realizes that not everyone has the same emotional awareness she has. So she doesn't take things personally. She doesn't assume. She observes. She listens. She tries to understand what's behind the words, behind the silence, behind the behavior. And because she seeks understanding before judgment, people feel safe opening up around her. They feel seen, heard, and respected. Not because she fixes their problems, but because she sees their humanity. But emotional intelligence is not just about compassion, it is also about accountability. A mature woman takes responsibility for her own actions. She apologizes without excuses when she is wrong. She reflects instead of deflects. She doesn't blame others for her feelings, and she doesn't try to emotionally manipulate anyone to get what she wants. She chooses honesty over ego. That kind of self-awareness is rare, and rare things are irresistible. She also knows how to communicate her needs clearly. She doesn't expect people to guess what she's feeling. She doesn't punish others with silence. She speaks with intention, not accusation. She explains, not attacks. And she expresses herself in a way that builds connection rather than destroying it. She understands that communication is not about winning, but about understanding and being understood. A mature woman's emotional intelligence also shows in the way she handles conflict. She doesn't explode. She doesn't retreat into passive aggression. She doesn't create drama to feel powerful. Instead, she seeks resolution. She asks questions. She clarifies misunderstandings. She tries to find common ground. And if a situation cannot be resolved, she knows how to walk away gracefully, without resentment, without bitterness, without losing her sense of self. She has learned that not every argument needs to be fought, and not every disagreement needs to be turned into a battle. She knows that sometimes peace is more important than being right. Sometimes silence is wiser than reaction. Sometimes distance is healthier than forcing a bridge that no longer holds. Her emotional wisdom guides her choices, and those choices make her magnetic. Another thing that makes her irresistible is her ability to regulate her emotions in moments of stress. Life will always bring challenges, disappointments, unexpected changes, heartbreak, pressure. But she has learned how to center herself in the midst of them. She breathes before responding. She thinks before speaking. She pauses before acting. She has trained herself to be a calm presence in a chaotic world. People naturally gravitate towards someone who can stay grounded when everything else feels unstable. Someone who listens without interrupting. Someone who can hold space for another person's pain without absorbing it as her own. Someone who doesn't crumble under stress or collapse under pressure. A mature woman becomes that person not through perfection, but through practice. Moreover, emotional intelligence makes her deeply empathetic. She can feel what others feel, but she also knows how to protect her own emotional boundaries. She is kind, but not nada vi, compassionate, but not easily manipulated, giving, but not at the expense of her own well-being. She understands the difference between helping someone grow and enabling their lack of growth. Her empathy comes with wisdom, and that balance is powerful. A mature woman also knows how to choose her emotional battles. She knows when to speak and when to stay silent. She knows when to lean in and when to step back. She knows when someone needs her support and when they need their space. She reads situations not just with her eyes, but with her intuition, the quiet voice inside her that has been shaped by years of listening. But perhaps the most beautiful part of her emotional intelligence is the way she treats herself. She doesn't shame herself for feeling too much or too little. She doesn't criticize herself for being overwhelmed. She doesn't hide from her emotions. She honors them. She allows herself to feel, to process, to heal. She gives herself grace on the days she is tired and compassion on the days she is hurting. That self-understanding radiates outward, shaping how she treats the world. This emotional depth, this ability to feel without falling apart, to understand without absorbing, to love without losing herself, is what makes a mature woman truly irresistible. Not because she is perfect, but because she is grounded. Not because she is emotionless, but because she is emotionally wise. Not because she is hard to get, but because she is intentional about who she lets in. People are drawn to her because she moves differently, thinks differently, responds differently. She brings peace. She brings clarity. She brings emotional safety, something everyone craves, but few know how to create. And that makes her unforgettable